Welcome to Who Am I? Secrets of the Florida Scrub. If you are going to build the perfect home for animals and plants, would you choose a place that is hot, dry, sandy, and sometimes catches on fire? And yet some animals live here that live nowhere else on earth. Some animals don't choose the scrub. For some, it's the only place where they can live. Let's discover why. To learn about Florida, let's start at the very beginning. Imagine that you're taking one of those kayak rides where the water is flat like a bathtub with no wind, just a blue expanse stretching out in front of you. Also imagine that you see some islands on the horizon, coming up a ways off in front of you. There are no other land masses in sight. As you approach these islands, you are surprised to find many plants, several species of pine, and evidence of some wildlife. It feels like you've moved far back in time. Florida as we know it doesn't exist. Florida just consists of a few sandy islands. Pull up your kayak and step onto the sandy shore. You're greeted by a flowery plant and notice a small metallic blue bee burying itself in the flowers. You've never seen a bee like this before. The plant is called a Calamintha ashae or ashes mint. And this little bee, it's called the blue calamintha bee. They are found no place else in the world. The plant and animals here share the evolutionary history of these islands. This means that they evolved together. They may have been here for between 1 and 2 million years, and this is their home. You are in awe. You are standing on what will become the Lake Wales Ridge in Florida. Formed along the coast of Africa 500 million years ago, Florida emerged from the ocean between 60 and 2 million years ago as islands that we now call the Lake Wales Ridge. These are Florida's ancient lands. Today we're going to learn about the Lake Wales Ridge by looking at the plants and animals that live here. So let's get started. Let's start with a question. I live with my parents. When my parents have more babies, I help feed them. I also watch for danger, and if I see a hawk, I loudly warn everybody. Sometimes I stay home for years. Who do you think this is? Our amazing Florida scrub jay. These birds are known as cooperative breeders. The young from previous years may remain in the family territory and help at later nests. These birds are totally dependent on open, low scrub so that they can see far, and this habitat is maintained by fire. So what does this bird depend on? Family and fire. Have you ever needed someone to watch out for you? Now we're meeting someone who doesn't depend on family like the scrub jay. She depends on something else. She is blue and very small. She collects pollen with her face, and she depends completely on 2 flowers. Now, have you ever seen such a beautiful bee? This bee is known as the jewel of the ridge. The blue calamintha bee is a mason bee that builds its nest out of mud underground and is only found here. These unique bees have short, erect facial hairs used for pollen collection. When you see them as a flower, you might see them moving their heads back and forth to collect the pollen. It bobs its head against the flower while collecting the pollen. This bee feeds primarily on ashes calamint. Being good at one thing sounds great, doesn't it? But it could be dangerous. What would happen if ashes mint disappeared? These bees and flowers are specialists. Being a specialist can make you very good at surviving here, but it can also make you vulnerable. Here's another interesting animal. Who am I? I don't run very fast. I don't have sharp teeth. I don't have any claws. My best defense is to become almost invisible. Introducing the Florida rosemary grasshopper. It feeds exclusively on Florida rosemary. Can you see how it would be difficult to find this grasshopper? What would happen if the rosemary disappeared? You see a pattern here? Both the bee and the grasshopper depend on just one or two species of plants. Time for another one. I depend on sand. Who am I? I'm a lizard. I hardly use my legs. I have tiny eyes. I have no outside ear openings. And instead of running across the ground, I swim through it. We're talking about the Florida sand skink. Look at how silvery it is. We found that animals depend on family and plants, but can an animal depend on sand? This little skink measures 4 to 5 inches in length. It has a gray to tan body with a silvery sheen. It has 2 sets of legs. Its forelegs are tiny with 1 toe each, and the hind legs are also small with 2 toes each. The skink has small eyes with a transparent lower eyelid and body grooves that allow its limbs to fold. The lower eyelid enables it to move smoothly through the loose sand without getting any in its eyes. In addition, it has no external ear openings. It is truly designed to move through the sand. So the scrub doesn't just give animals a home. Over time, living here has shaped their bodies. So we've looked in the trees, we've looked at flowers, and we've looked across the sand. Have we found the whole scrub? Maybe we should look down and ask ourselves, if the soil is poor, where do new nutrients come from? I depend on the right moment. I have more than 100 legs. I can grow almost as long as your hand. You could walk through my home every day and almost never see me. I spend most of my life underground. I wait. Then, when conditions are right, I come out at night. Who am I? The Florida scrub millipede. This is a crucial player in Florida's scrub ecosystem. Feeding on dead leaves and plant material, its excretions fertilize the soil and support plant life in the sands. This millipede can reach about 4 inches long, spending its days beneath the sand and emerging at night. Who am I? I can't fly. I can't run very fast, but I may have built one of the safest places in the scrub. My home is underground, and when fire comes, I'm not the only one who uses it. Who am I? The gopher tortoise. The gopher tortoise is described as a keystone species with over 350 different animals that use the burrow. The tortoise's favorite food is prickly pear cactus. Imagine sitting down to a meal of cactus. The burrow is a refuge from extreme temperatures, drought, and fire. And many species depend on the gopher tortoise, even though they've never met. The tortoise built a home, and without knowing it, it built a refuge. When fire sweeps through, a whole bunch of critters go inside his refuge. And speaking of gopher tortoise burrows, we've got one more scrub endemic species that we just can't leave out. And that's the Florida mouse. This little mouse depends on gopher tortoises in a different way. They frequently use their burrows for nesting after gopher tortoises abandon the burrow, so the influence of the tortoise continues even after it has moved on. These mice are nocturnal, thus the big eyes, coming out at night to feed on seeds, nuts, and insects. Now we are done. Let's revisit the connections. Everything depends on something. If I were to move just one thing from this web, what would happen? This is why we protect habitats and not just animals. The scrub jay depends on family. Plants depended on nutrients provided by the millipede. The bee depends on flowers, the grasshopper depends on rosemary, the skink depends on sand, the gopher tortoise depends on plants, and the Florida mouse depends on the gopher tortoise. The Florida scrub isn't just a collection of rare species. It's a community built on relationships that have developed over hundreds of thousands of years. It is also more than a hot, dry, sandy area that catches on fire. These are our ancient lands, a community built on relationships.